Number 10. Adam Sandler. Adam had a pretty stellar career up until 2011. After starring in the sketch show Saturday Night Live, Adam was being taken seriously as a comedic actor and was given his first on-screen gig in 1989's Going Overboard. It's a movie about a young comedian taking a job on a cruise ship hoping for his big chance to make it in the world. The movie did terribly, but thankfully it wasn't Adam's fault because he didn't write the thing, so he was given another chance a few years later in the classic comedy Airheads. That's when Adam's career really took off. He was casted as the leading man in several movies between 1995 and 2000, including some that he co-wrote, like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and The Waterboy, all sports-themed movies. Confusing. Honestly, his movies were some of my favorite growing up, and I had all of his DVDs. Up until Jack and Jill, the movie that told the world that Adam had given up. The movie starred Adam starring as a twin brother and sister trying to get closer over the holidays. Terrible premise, right? But just wait! There's a B plot where Al Pacino falls for that sister and stars in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, which is just the most obvious and obnoxious cash grab ever. Since then, Adam's movies seem to just be an excuse for him and his family to get a working vacation. Just Go With It was the first big budget follow-up for Adam, and the story took place in Hawaii, where they also filmed majority of the project. He's actually set a few of his movies in Hawaii, one in Africa, and even one in Toronto, which isn't tropical but still Canadian vacay. Since signing his deal with Netflix releasing several movies exclusively to the platform, he has continued to pump out meh after meh. Except for Hubie Halloween, that movie is adorable. Number 9. Cameron Diaz. Cameron's break from the acting world was a massive shock to her fans. Her career was going nowhere but up following her role in the 1995 comedy classic The Mask alongside Jim Carrey. She was even given a cozy little position working in a sound booth alongside Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy in the animated series Shrek, that currently sits at 4 movies. Come on, baby, bring home the 5th. While she suddenly stopped acting in 2014, it wasn't until 2018 that she officially announced that she would be retiring from the acting world to focus more on her family life and mental health. According to Cameron, working at such a high caliber for such a long period of time took a ton out of her, and following the negative reviews from her movies like Bad Teacher and SEX Tape, yeah, I can't say it, but I can spell it, she apparently took the comments to heart and decided to give up her acting career. She will be making one more movie appearance in an upcoming action movie starring Jamie Foxx that just wrapped production roughly a month ago and is set to release sometime early in 2024. However, just days after the set wrapped, she announced that she would once again be returning to the world of motherhood, as the long set days now only acted as time that she could be spending with her family. Number 8. Nick Cage. Nick Cage is one of the most unhinged actors that's still working in Hollywood today. If you want to watch one of his movies, you have like 100 to choose from. This dude pumps out movie after movie, keeping the paychecks coming in. But just because he's making movies left and right doesn't mean that he cares about his job. Between 1990 and 2000, Nick starred in several box office successes that should have landed him in a really comfortable spot financially, but instead Nick chose to use that money on stuff. He bought houses, cars, boats, and he had almost $10 million in his pocket by 1999, but he spent the past 20 years owing almost $4 million in taxes and fees, which is why it sometimes feels like he's just given up creatively speaking. His movies are either hits like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, or floppy flop-flops like The Wicker Man. He maintained a steady stream of work, but it's only been this past year that Cage really seems to be enjoying his job again, with Renfield being a surprise hit with fans, claiming Nick's performance as the undead Prince of Darkness was the most alive that he's been in years. Alright, number 7. Al Pacino. What's my name? Dunkachino. Alright, a song and dance that lives rent-free in my skull thanks to the movie Jack and Jill, previously mentioned on this list. Now, Al was no slouch in the acting department when he first started regularly appearing on screens in the 1970s. His role as the iconic no-no-snow enthusiast Scarface has gone down in history as one of the most powerful performances of all time. However, Al's career took a massive dip after Jack and Jill. The role of him playing himself made the world see him as a bit of a kooky old man, which is exactly what he started being casted as. In movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and House of Gucci, Al looks like he was given the script on the day of, that he was squeezed into a suit and physically plopped into place by a PA or something. With Al now being a new dad at the age of 83, yeah, that's true, it appears that he has given up his screen time for more of a wholesome family life with his mistress and his wife. What? Number 6. Samuel L. Jackson. Sam is an incredible actor and is one of the examples of actors on this list who gave up in the sense that they just stopped trying so hard to do their jobs, because he just got too good at it. Sam got his start in movies like Pulp Fiction and Jurassic Park, and for the past few years he's been working in a cozy acting gig as the man who created the Avengers, Colonel Nick Fury, recently starring in his own Disney Plus series that was centered around his character. But what that means is for the past 10 years, this man has just shown up to set, put on an eye patch, and done his job. No ifs, no ands, no buts. He has appeared in many projects outside of Marvel in movies like Glass or The Hitman's Bodyguard, but even then, he just leans into his own mannerisms and charm, delivering constantly solid performances with basically no effort. Number 5. Eddie Murphy. Eddie is massive in the world of comedy and is considered an on-screen legend, portraying characters like the Nutty Professor, Mushu from Mulan, and of course, Donkey from Shrek. However, between 2005 and 2012, Murphy was starring in movies that were noticeably worse in quality than what we were used to. Movies like Meet Dave, 1,000 Words, Tower Heist, they all felt like movies that he had been forced to make. In fact, following 1,000 Words, he actually decided to take a break from acting entirely, making his return in 2016's Mr. Church. Despite popping up in a few movies since, like Coming to America or You People, Eddie has been taking breaks between filming, with his next performance still up in the air. Number 4. Chris Hemsworth. In his early days of acting, Chris was starring in every genre that would take him, never really finding his footing. Popping up in movies like Star Trek or Cabin in the Woods, but the world universally agreed that action was going to be his realm, thanks to the success of the first Thor movie. Over the next few years, Chris attempted to branch out into other projects, starring in movies like In the Heart of the Sea and Black Hat. But things shifted when he got the chance to work on the universally hated Ghostbusters reboot from 2016, starring an all-female lead cast, with Chris acting as their secretary. Hey, you can hate me all you want, that movie had an incredible cast and it would have done so much better if the internet weren't so terrible. But the one thing people actually agreed on is that Chris did a wonderful job and he was responsible for some of the funniest moments of the project. But fun fact, before that movie, he was never actually encouraged to improvise his lines. Instead, he just stuck to his script and moved on. Instead, just sticking to the script. He had an incredible time on set, and when it came to start production on the third entry of the Thor franchise, Chris had a brilliant idea, and thankfully the director Taika Waititi had a massive background in comedy and was happy to see Chris have so much fun on set. It seems that ever since Ghostbusters, Chris has just given up trying to be some cool, edgy, quiet guy and has instead embraced himself as a lovable giant who can still throw down if he needs to. Number 3. TJ Miller. Many fans of the Marvel Universe will recognize TJ as Weasel, but many may know him as Erlich Bachman from the hit HBO series Silicon Valley. Between 2014 and 2020, Miller was on a hot streak. He has a unique voice that was perfect for voiceover, and he was considered to be an elite in the world of comedy. However, in the past few years, Miller has remained pretty quiet in the world of Hollywood, and that unfortunately has to do with a long battle of substance control issues. TJ is a connoisseur of many different narcotics and substances, and following his stepping away from Silicon Valley, Miller found it harder and harder to secure steady work. He was hoping to develop his own series or possibly lead a franchise, instead of just popping up in one like in Transformers 4. Instead, Miller fell deep into his hobby, and unfortunately a surgery he had a couple of years after filming the live-action Yogi Bear movie left him needing medication to regulate his brain functions, something that he's admitted to being an attributing factor of why he has such a rough reputation in Hollywood. Rather than continue to make bad movies and moving on, he decided to just stop acting entirely and focus on his mental health. Number 2. Jeff Cohen. Now, Jeff's name may not be familiar to you, but his most iconic and only acting role certainly is. Jeff played Chunk in the much-loved classic adventure movie The Goonies. Chunk was one of the many young actors in search of the treasure of One-Eyed Willie, so they can save their small seaside neighborhood from being bulldozed to the ground. This movie has aged like a fine wine, and it just gets better and better the older you get. Jeff stole the show and truly stood out among the ensemble. Who could forget his notorious interrogation action scene. This man almost got blended. Following the success of the movie, many were under the impression that he was going to have a long and fruitful career. While his co-stars went to star in franchises like Lord of the Rings and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jeff decided to go the opposite direction and he quit acting entirely. Unfortunately for Jeff, he was being pegged as a chubby actor, so that's exactly what people were trying to cast him in. And rather than give him room to grow and breathe, studios were trying to typecast him as the big nerdy guy in every single project. Finding it difficult to secure work, it was unfortunately puberty that secured his fate. He was going from chunk to hunk, according to an interview with the Daily Mail. Eventually, he realized it just made sense to give up for now and try something new. So that's exactly what he did. He went to school, he focused on his mental health, and he got a degree in law. He now works out of a law firm that he co-founded with his business partner, Cohen Gardner. So that's pretty cool. And at number 1, Harrison Ford. Harrison is of course the man behind the whip and hat of Indiana Jones, who's a character who just had his 5th film released in theaters with a massive box office return. Now, this is an entry where I mean nothing to be negative towards Harrison, and when I say he's given up, I mean that he just doesn't have to act anymore. Harrison is in his 80s, believe it or not, but he is still considered by his friends and family to be a lively troublemaker, not unlike his Star Wars character Han Solo, another character that he simply just does not care about perfecting anymore because he knows that he already has. In his early days playing these characters when they first premiered, Harrison felt tremendous pressure. As soon as the films were successful, 2 franchises rested on his shoulders. But over the years, the more times he had to step into the shoes of his alter egos, the more comfortable he seemed to become. Harrison gave up trying to be good a long time ago, and just simply is.
Starting off this countdown, we have Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz has starred in a number of iconic movies, from The Mask to There's Something About Mary to Charlie's Angels, and how could we forget about Shrek? Sadly, it seems as if Cameron is over her acting days. She last appeared on screen in 2014 for the film Annie. 4 years later, in 2018, she announced that she has retired. She said that she didn't really miss performing, and as of now, she's just enjoying spending quality time with her daughter. And she loves having tons of time for herself. Who knows though, maybe in a couple more years she'll give acting another go. But as for now, she's set on her retirement. In our 9th spot, we have Jennifer Stone. Any fan of the old school Disney Channel days will recognize Jennifer Stone from Wizards of Waverly Place, where she plays the eccentric Harper. After her Disney Channel days, Jennifer went on to star in a number of TV miniseries and movies. In fact, she was even in a Christmas movie with the actor who played Ned in Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. Smash that like button if you remember that show. That's a throwback. Anyway, nowadays Jennifer has completely switched careers. She is now a registered nurse and is helping patients with COVID-19. That is incredible. Good for her. In our 8th spot, we have Jessica Biel. In an interview a couple years ago, Jessica revealed that it's getting harder and harder for her to get roles and to be cast. She claims that her good looks were holding her back. No word of a lie, she said that she was too pretty. Anyways, Jessica is still currently acting, but in more low-key roles. I believe her last big role was The Sinner in 2017. I mean, I heard it's a very good show, so props to her. But after that, it's been mainly voiceover gigs like in BoJack Horseman and Pete the Cat. Nothing huge and Oscar-worthy. Coming in at number 7, we have Lindsay Lohan. Honestly, Lindsay Lohan was responsible for some of the most iconic teen movies like Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, The Parent Trap, Get a Clue, Mean Girls, Freaky Friday, like the list goes on and on. So it's quite sad that we lost such a talented actress with tons of potential. Anyways, Lohan's drug addiction got to her and she kind of fell off the map. When she did try and get back into acting, she was hard to deal with on set and she was demanding and unprofessional. Then of course we had the reality show Lindsay Lohan Beach Club in 2019, and that only lasted 1 season. Now she's back out of the public eye again. Coming in at number 6, we have Terry Crews, another actor who has been in some iconic shows and movies. But after Brooklyn Nine-Nine ending, it doesn't seem like Crews has any more work lined up and ready to go. According to his IMDb page, he only filmed Brooklyn Nine-Nine this year, as well as voiced a character in the upcoming animated movie Rumble. This is unlike him, who is normally filming non-stop each year with multiple projects on the go. Hopefully we will be seeing more of Crews next year, but as of now he has no projects lined up. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Jack Gleason, who you might recognize from Game of Thrones. If you're a fan of the show, then chances are you hated his character. But surprisingly enough, even after acting in such an iconic show, Jack barely got any other acting roles after Game of Thrones. In 2014, he was pretty discouraged by this and said he wanted to resign from acting to focus on his academics. He ended up taking a philosophy course in Ireland. When he announced his decision to take a break from acting, he said, and I quote, "I just stopped enjoying it as much as I used to, and now there's the prospect of doing it for a living, whereas up until now it was always something I did for recreation with my friends or in the summer for some fun. I enjoyed it. When you make a living from something, it changes your relationship with it. It's not like I hate it, it's just not what I want to do." But acting isn't out of the picture. He ended up opening a successful touring theater company and starred in the BBC comedy Out of Her Mind in March. He just won't be in the spotlight as much as he was originally. Coming in at number 4, we have Freddie Prinze Jr. You might know him in I Know What You Did Last Summer, or maybe from his iconic role of Fred in the live-action Scooby-Doo. That right there is my childhood. He also appeared in a back-to-back role in Friends in 2002. Well, after appearing in season 8 of the show 24 with Kiefer Sutherland, Freddie said that he wanted to quit acting. According to him, and I quote, "I did 24. It was terrible. I hated every moment of it. Kiefer was the most unprofessional dude in the world. That's not me talking trash. I'd say it to his face. I think everyone that's worked with him has said that. Ouch." He continued on saying, and I quote, "I just wanted to quit the business after that, so I just sort of stopped." So a bad set experience is what triggered Freddie to stop acting. Nowadays though, he's a chef and released his own cookbooks. And he's married to Daphne from Scooby-Doo. Anyway, moving on to number 3, we have Taylor Lautner. After Shark Boy and Lava Girl and Cheaper by the Dozen, Taylor went on to star in Twilight, which is probably what he's best known for. Then he acted in Scream Queens season 2, which was interesting to say the least. After that, he kinda just fell out of the public eye. That was until recently when he announced his proposal to his now fiancée, Taylor Dome, meaning that they will both be Taylor Lautner if she chooses to keep his last name. It seems as if Taylor had a harder time transitioning from Twilight to more serious roles. It took a while, but his co-stars Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart both did it. Now it's time for you, Taylor. Moving on to number 2, we have Betty White, one of the purest souls out there. Betty White is just incredible, no one can deny that. And this queen is 99 years old, soon she'll be 100, which is hard to believe because she looks too good for her age. Anyway, Betty White has been slowing down on her work lately. Her recent credits are mainly voiceover work, but she has guest starred in a couple of TV shows and movies. But according to her IMDb page, since 2019 she hasn't done any work, which is completely acceptable. Like, this woman has been working since she was a teenager. I just need to know her secrets to living long and looking that damn good. And in our number 1 spot today we have Daniel Day-Lewis. Now this one is hard to believe. Daniel Day-Lewis is incredibly talented. He's got 3 Oscars, 4 British Academy Film Awards, and even got knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. But in 2017, Daniel Day-Lewis released a statement through his rep. The rep said, and I quote, "Daniel Day-Lewis will no longer be working as an actor. This is a private decision and neither he nor his representatives will make any further comment on this subject." This was announced not long after receiving an Academy Award nomination for Phantom Thread. Now, Lewis did go into semi-retirement in the 90s, so maybe that's what's happening again. He's just gonna take a little short break and then come back. Hopefully, he'll be back making movies in no time. Starting off our list at number 10 is Angus T. Jones. The young actor made his big break on the show 2.5 Men, but quit the show after 10 long seasons. His reasoning for leaving the show was because he felt the show was filth. He even went as far as telling viewers to stop watching it. Angus explains that as he got older, he felt the show went against his religious views. It was reported that the young actor was earning about $350,000 an episode, but he still felt confident in his decision to walk away from the show. After leaving, he joined different Christian groups like Forerunner Chronicles, where he made testimonial videos about his faith. He ended up becoming the president of Entertainment at Tonight, which is an events company co-founded by Diddy's son, Justin. When asked if he has any interest in returning to acting, he he says, "The door is definitely still open for me to do that, but I am taking things slowly. I'm kind of liking the ability to travel and to move around at a moment's notice and not have to be in one spot for years at a time." Well, that is fair enough. Good news is he's still young and has a lot of time to make his return. At number 9 is Brittany Ashton Holmes. Ever wonder what happened to that adorable little Darla from Little Rascals? You know, the girl Alfalfa secretly loves and writes his famous line to. "Dear Darla, I hate your stinking guts. You make me vomit." I mean, if I got a letter that started out like that, I might quit acting too. The young actress was only 5 years old when she got the part in the movie remake of the classic show. The whole cast was great, but she definitely stole the show. After the movie was released, she continued to act but only got a handful of gigs. She ended up retiring from acting very early on in her career after she finished the 1996 sci-fi movie Inhumanoid. She went off to school and is currently working on getting a degree in political science and is now 30 years old. Before MySpace was deleted, she wrote, "I was an actress when I was little and did this movie called Little Rascals. It's like really embarrassing to watch and I don't want to act anymore." She is still living in LA though, so maybe one day we will see her on our screen once again. Swiping the number 8 spot is Peter Ostrom, also known as Charlie Bucket in the original 1971 Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The child actor was just 12 years old when he was selected to play the role. After the movie, he went on to say that he really enjoyed working on the film, but that he decided not to sign a 3-film contract when the movie was over. When he returned home from filming the movie, he says he grew an interest in horses and was interested in becoming a veterinarian one day. He no longer had an interest in being part of the Hollywood world. He ended up going to Cornell University College of Veterinary Medicine in 1984 to receive his certificate. His earnings from the movie are actually what funded his purchase of his very first horse. During an interview with Express, he said, "Looking back, my paycheck was paltry, but it was during filming that I became interested in medicine. So I bought my first horse with my earnings, and that started my current career path as a vet." Later on in 2005, he moved to New York with his wife and 2 children, and as of 2018, he works out of the Countryside Veterinarian Clinic where he mainly works with horses and cows. As for acting, he says that he wanted to live a normal life and had declined reporters and interviews for a long period of time. He did admit that sometimes he misses acting, but says his life as a vet has also been his dream for many years. Taking the number 7 spot is Karen Parsons. She's famous for playing Hilary Banks on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Outside of the show, she had other acting success, but we haven't seen her on the big screen since 2002. Her last movie was 13 Moons and her last TV series was The Job. She up and left her acting career after that and has been dedicating herself to changing the lives of other people. In 2013, she founded a non-profit organization that teaches kids all about figures in Black history. She called it Sweet Blackberry. She did an interview with Huffington Post where she spoke about the importance of her organization. She said, I quote, "When you only hear about a handful of stories, the message is, every once in a while a special Black person comes along. And that's a dangerous message to send to everyone. It does nothing but harm the idea of Black people. I think it's really important to tell these stories because there are lessons to be learned. Incredible lessons about perseverance and determination and opportunity to do something great." Her organization did a project that shared the story of the first Black female pilot named Bessie Coleman, which ended up being a huge success. And at number 6 is Michael Schofling. He won the hearts of many young girls when he took on the role of Jake Ryan in the classic movie 16 Candles. He started the movie back in 1984 and quit acting not that long after in 1991. Fans were wondering whatever happened to the heartthrob, and we later found out that in between booking roles, he got into making furniture. He now has a successful furniture business in his home in Pennsylvania. When asked about why he made the career path switch, he told LA Times, "Actors spend most of their time out of work, so I actually spend more time making furniture. The thing about furniture that's much better than acting is that it's just me. There's no director, no script, the concept is me, unless a client wants something. In film work, you do the best you can under the given circumstances, but you don't have control. At least I don't." Well, I'm sure people would love the chance at buying a chair from Jake Ryan. Halfway through at number 5 is Barrett Oliver. Some say he was the most talented child actor of the 80s after he took on the role as Bastian in The Never-Ending Story. After the success that 1984 movie brought him, he went on to star in movies like The Twilight Zone and The Secret Garden. People thought he was well on his way to be the next Hollywood star, but he ended up ditching acting at the young age of 16. In 2000, 2004, there was an update on where he was at in his life, and it confirmed that he was a photography teacher in California, where he holds workshops and demonstrations about the craft. One fan visited his photo exhibition in California and posted online saying he has a full beard, wears glasses, and has long hair. His voice was recognizable, he wasn't really tall, and spoke quietly. And let me tell you, they were not lying. He doesn't show any signs of regret or desire to return to Hollywood or acting, and fans aren't totally sure if he would even be able to at this point. Here we are at number 4 with Jeff Cohen. You might remember him from his role as Chunk in the legendary The Goonies. The classic movie came out in 1985, and he continued his acting career up until 1991. When asked why he left the industry, he cracks jokes saying that puberty forced him into early retirement as a child actor. He explains that as he got older, finding work was a lot more difficult. Once acting was out of the picture, he found a passion for law and attended the University of California, Berkeley, earning a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. The former actor went on to become a lawyer, and in 2008 he was named one of the top 35 executives under 35 years of age. He continues to be a successful lawyer and says that acting has benefited his legal career because it makes him more empathetic for his clients and less academic. He has also done work for the Huffington Post and BNBC from time to time about business and legal subjects, so I guess he's still in Hollywood in some sense. Alright guys, at number 3 is Gene Hackman. The actor blessed our screens for years, but we haven't seen him since 2004 when he starred in Welcome to Mooseport. It's been said that he never officially retired, but we kind of just figured it out on our own, seeing as he hasn't worked on anything in years. Not to mention he is 89 years old now. Ever since he left the acting industry, he's taken his talent and skill to print instead. He began working with archaeologist Daniel Menahan to write 3 historical fiction novels. That's right, our man Hackman is known to be an author now. On top of his fiction novels, he also wrote 2 solo ones. In 2011, he wrote Payback at Morning Peak, and in 2013, he wrote a book called Pursuit. While fans are still missing him on the screen, I'm sure, they must be glad he's still putting his wit and talent into something. In at number 2 is Jake Lloyd. The once child star took on the role of the young Anakin Skywalker in the highly anticipated Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. What would seem like the opportunity of a lifetime was quickly taken from him when the movie didn't live up to its expectations. It was said that his performance got lumped into the overall fan disappointment of the movie. Before that though, he did book some other roles on TV series like ER and The Pretender. But it seems like after Star Wars he left his acting career behind. Between the years 1999 to 2002, he has smaller credits, but mostly for being the voice on Star Wars video games. Since then, the actor has made headlines, but for all the wrong reasons. We have learned that he suffers from schizophrenia and also had a few run-ins with the law. Taking our number 1 spot is Danny Lloyd. For decades, horror fans have been asking author Stephen King, what happened to that kid from The Shining? Well, I am here to give you the very unscary truth. He became a pig farmer and a science teacher. The actor at the time was only 5 years old, and now he is in his 40s, married, and a father of 6. In 2013, he did his first episode since he was a kid with Daily News, where he opened up about his normal life, saying that people don't recognize him when he goes out in public. He explained that he did continue acting but ended up giving up when he was a teenager. He said, I quote, "We kept trying for several years until I was in high school, and I stopped at about 14 with almost no success." Danny says he enjoyed being in the movie but went on to work at a local Walmart and drove a tractor on a hog farm. Now he teaches biology at a community college outside of Louisville. He watched The Shining for the first time when he was 16 years old with a group of friends and says that he was not scared. Just a few weeks ago, the sequel to the movie dropped its official trailer for Dr. Sleep, and fans were a bit butthurt that Danny won't be returning to reprise his role.